Kong Skull Island is directed by Jordan Vogt-Roberts, and this isn't your typical King Kong story. This film follows a handful of scientists and soldiers who travel to an uncharted island known as Skull Island. And they start to explore this island using some rather radical methods which awakens the big giant monkey King Kong. Now some of you may know, but also some people don't, but this film is in the same universe as the 2014 film Godzilla, which eventually will lead to them both fighting. So I guess that they're starting a Warner Brothers monster cinematic universe, which I'll discuss later. Now, I was actually looking forward to this film, one, because I really do actually enjoy the 2014 film Godzilla. It's not a perfect film, but it's good enough for me to be excited about a spinoff that is in the same universe, let alone a spinoff being King Kong. And the last movie featuring King Kong was the Peter Jackson film, and I actually do really enjoy that film as well. And Kong Skull Island has an absolutely star-studded cast featuring names like Tom Hiddleston, Brie Larson, John Goodman, Samuel L. Jackson, John C. Reilly, and tons more. Now, there are really two ways of watching Kong Skull Island. On one hand, you have the critical side, and then on one hand, you have the fun side. And I'm going to leave it to you guys to determine what side you fall under. For me, I was in a happy medium. I didn't want to be too harsh on this film, but I also wanted to have a good time. Now, if I was going to go into this movie being incredibly critical and not wanting to just see a fun summer blockbuster type film, this would be the problem that I had with this movie. With a big monster movie, I understand that you can't have the entirety of the film centered around that one monster, that one character, this, in this instance, being King Kong. So, to fill the time, you need to have some type of character that you can attach to. In the Godzilla film, it was Aaron Taylor Johnson and kinda Bryan Cranston, but in this film, you get that entire list of actors and actresses that I just named. But barring one or two of them, they're not particularly interesting, which is quite a shame and was very confusing to me because those names I just listed are incredibly talented and some of them Oscar nominated and Oscar winning actors and actresses. So when their characters were incredibly flat and didn't have much to do, that caught me by surprise. For example, Brie Larson is a photographer in this film and she has next to nothing to do. There's actually one shot in this film that made me laugh really hard because the soldiers are in a circle essentially and they're waiting for these monsters to attack, and it's a 360 shot of all the soldiers like aiming up their guns, and she's got like her camera just waiting to go. And I was just sitting there like, you couldn't have handed her like, I don't know, a knife. The only characters that I thought were actually well fleshed out in this film were Samuel L. Jackson's character and John C. Reilly's character. In the trailers, it hints that John C. Reilly has been on this island for a very long time. And his character really has the best backstory, and I thought that he was the most interesting character and was the most relatable in that sense. He had the most depth to him, he had the most to do, he had the most stakes to him. He's been on this island for like 30 years and he just wants to go home. As I said, I actually did really enjoy Samuel L. Jackson's character. He is the captain of this platoon of soldiers that go to Skull Island. As you've seen from the trailers, their initial start to this mission does not really go well. So the entire film, he has this vendetta against King Kong and he's just wanting to kill him and really doesn't care about anything else and really just forgets the reason why they're there, essentially. If you watch the original Godzilla film that was made in the 1950s, it's clear to see that that movie was an allegory to the nuclear fallout of that time from not only Nagasaki, but Hiroshima as well. And this movie hints at something interesting, which it does take place a little bit post-Vietnam. Like, we're talking days after Vietnam kind of ended. And Samuel L. Jackson's character is really striving for someone to fight, which was a nice allegory to where the government was at that time, where we were really trying to find somebody to fight. I could see an argument both ways of how that allegory doesn't really hold up, but I thought it was a nice attempt for this film. But as I said, barring those two characters, you have very little depth for anyone else. In fact, what's weird that this movie does is they give you just enough depth to kind of care about the characters, but they do that for every single person in this platoon, to where there's so many cogs working at the same time and you really can't see who's the main character in this film. I guess it's Tom Hiddleston, maybe, but even him you don't know anything about. They mention in passing that he was part of the British military, but then they kind of just brush that aside and you really don't know anything besides he can kill people with a pool stick. But again, there is another way to watch this movie, and there's a way to just watch it as a simple popcorn fun monster movie. Which if you purely do that and you block out everything and you try not to care about these characters, you will enjoy yourself. Because as most people do when you go to watch these types of films, in this case King Kong, what you go to see is the monster. And nearly every single scene he is in is incredibly fun and so entertaining. I really did enjoy this interpretation of King Kong. This is by far the biggest version of this character that we've gotten. This movie also does a great job setting up scale. You can really tell just how absolutely massive this creature is. My biggest complaint with the King Kong creature himself is I wish that he would have seemed a little bit more like a monkey. I love the way he looks, and I love how they call back to that classic look of King Kong. I love all of that. I just think that the entire film, he's standing straight up and is walking on his feet, and he doesn't walk around like a big gorilla or a monkey like the Peter Jackson version did. And if I had to change one thing about the creature, that's probably all I would change. So when King Kong is on screen and he's fighting these other monsters, and even when the humans are fighting these other weird creatures, I would be lying if I'm telling you I didn't enjoy myself. It's an enjoyable time, and it's fun to watch these characters and these big creatures fight each other, but you can't really enjoy it much deeper than that. I'd compare this movie to Jurassic World. It's not as bad as Jurassic World, because I would even stretch to say Jurassic World is a good movie, but nonetheless, when I left Jurassic World, I can admit that I did have a fun time with it, even though that the characters were very shallow and had little to no depth to any of them. But overall, Kong Skull Island is a fun movie and an enjoyable movie, and it just seemed like it was a summer popcorn film that just came a little bit earlier in the year. If you're wanting to enjoy this film a little bit deeper and enjoy the characters that you're on this ride with, then I would try to find a different movie. I don't really know if I'm looking forward to seeing this cinematic universe. I do like Godzilla and I do like King Kong, and I would like to just see one movie where they fight and just call it quits. I don't need to see several Godzilla sequels. I don't need to see several King Kong sequels. Just make one more movie where they fight each other and call it quits. That's fine. So did you guys see Kong Skull Island? What did you think about it? Leave your thoughts and opinions down below. And as always, guys, thank you so much for watching today. I hope you liked today's video. And if you did, click on the link down below and subscribe to my channel to see more movie reviews and related things. And guys, thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.